Good afternoon. In this video I'll be teaching how to play Star Wars Unlimited, a relatively new card game from FFG, obviously based around Star Wars. It is pretty similar, I would say, to games like Hearthstone, maybe a little bit of Lorcana thrown in there, so it'll be a very gentle transition if you're familiar with those games. I'll be playing a demonstration game on an online site called forcetable.net, where you can play against AI, which will be ideal for teaching the rules. I'll be using the Vader starter deck, and the AI will be playing the Luke starter deck. So we'll just dive right in and I'll explain the mechanics of the game. When you're starting out, you roll to see who will go first, who will have initiative, it's called in the game. So we'll just choose that randomly. This is what the board setup looks like. You start with a base. You can see mine is Command Center, which has 30 HP. Bases sometimes have an ability, but often they're just used as a marker for how much health you have. And then you start out with a hero. My hero is Darth Vader. And the leader will have an ability, and then he will also at some point enter the game as an actual unit. My opponent starts out with the base Administrator's Tower and the hero Luke Skywalker. The goal of the game is to reduce your opponent's base health to 0, 30 to 0 in this case. To start the game, you draw 6 cards. You can see my starting 6 cards down here at the bottom of the screen. And you have the option of whether to take a mulligan or not. I typically won't as long as I have a turn 1 play. And after you have drawn 6 cards, you then choose. You can see my opponent there, the AI, has chosen to take a mulligan. You then choose 2 cards to resource, which means you put them face down in this resource section, and then they function as your mana. This is how you will pay for cards. You will tap or exhaust the cards that are face down in the resource section, which you can do once per turn, and that's how you will pay for the cards that you will play. This is very similar, if not identical, to the way that Disney Lorcana operates. So when you draw your 6 cards at the start of the game, you then choose 2 to resource. I will typically choose cards that I won't be able to play for a long time. Resupply is a ramp card. I want to keep that. So a super laser tech. I think I'll probably resource General Veers, even though he is pretty good. So each of us resourced 2 cards, and now I have the initiative token. You can see I won the 50-50 roll there, so I go first. Now, in other card games, you will typically take all of your actions all at once, and then your opponent will take all of their actions all at once. It doesn't work that way in this game. You'll take 1 action, then your opponent will take 1 action, then you'll take 1 action, and you'll continue that until you've both taken all of your actions. So it functions a little differently from games like Hearthstone or Marvel Snap or Lorcana. In this case, an action can be playing a card, it can be attacking, it can be using a hero action. And then once you've done that, then your opponent gets a chance to do an action, and you alternate back and forth. In this case, I have 2 resources I can use in my resource. Take a look at one of the cards. The upper left number, the yellow number, is the resource cost. The red number is attack, and the blue number is health. That functions similar to every other card game practically. And then you have a unit ability in the text, which is usually pretty self-explanatory, but we'll go over some of the mechanics as we play the game. So I've drawn my starting hand, I've got my resources, and my turn comes first. I have 2 cards that are playable here, or I could use Darth Vader's action. You can see the action ability has a 1 and then an arrow next to it. The arrow means I have to exhaust the card in order to use it. The 1 means it costs 1 resource. And the action is if you played and then it gives a symbol, and you can see the symbol on that card. So I would need a card that has that symbol. If I played I'm not sure what the technical term is, but a purple card, I think it's a purple icon. This phase, deal 1 damage to a unit and 1 damage to a base. So it's a pretty good ability. And then Darth Vader has the epic action. If you control 7 resources, deploy this leader, which means you flip him. Then he enters the game as a unit. You have two spaces where you can play units. You have a space section and a ground section. Space units attack space, ground attacks ground. Either can attack the enemy base. I don't have any space units in my hand, so my options are to play a Death Star Stormtrooper, who is a 1-cost 3/1, or a First Legion Stormtrooper, who is a 2-cost 2/3, who has the ability when attacking a damaged unit, this unit gets +2 attack and gains overwhelmed, so you deal the excess damage to the opponent's base. I'll choose to use all of my mana here and play the First Legion Stormtrooper. Units enter play exhausted, so you can see my unit enters play sideways to indicate that it cannot attack this round. It's similar to Summoning Sickness from Magic the Gathering. And my opponent chose to use one of his resources to play R2-D2 Ignoring Protocol. It was a 1-cost 1/4 with the when played ability, look at the top card of your deck. You may put it on the bottom of the deck. And I don't know if I get to find out if my opponent did choose to put it on the bottom of the deck. R2-D2 combos well with C-3PO, who allows you to guess what the top card of your deck is or what the cost of it is, and draw it if you guess right. So that's my action. That's my opponent's action. Now I get the opportunity to take another action, as I cannot afford to do anything else. So I could have also chosen to use Death Star Stormtrooper and use Darth Vader's ability, but I opted for the First Legion. I now have only two options for the remainder of my turn. I can take the initiative or I can pass. Take the initiative means that I will go first next round. If you choose to take the initiative, you no longer have the option of taking any more actions for the remainder of that round, but you do get to go first next round. So there's a nice little strategy element there in terms of whether you want to be the one who goes first or not. You can choose to take the initiative, so you either take the initiative token from your opponent or you flip it over to the other side to indicate that you have taken it, and only one player can take the initiative per turn. So if you take the initiative token, then the opponent cannot then take it from you. You will go first next round, but not be able to take any other actions. Since I can't take any actions this round other than taking the initiative token, there would be no reason not to do that. So of course I will do it. I will take the initiative, which ends my turn, and then the opponent just goes on taking actions until his turn. He has no more actions to take, and then he passes. So what he did there is he chose to use Luke Skywalker's ability, which is why Luke Skywalker is now exhausted, and he used his one remaining resource to give a shield token to a rebel unit you played this phase, which is R2-D2. R2-D2 is now shielded, which means that the first time he takes damage is negated. And then at the end of the round, we each draw 2 cards, and then we can choose 1 card to play from our hand to play face down as an additional resource. So that's how you gain resources each round. There are also a few different cards that can allow you to do that. I think I am going to resource a resupply here. It's a good card, but I have a lot of resource cards in hand. And my opponent chose to resource a card as well. And since I have the initiative card token for the next round, I go first. At the end of the round, after drawing 2 cards and resourcing 1 card, we ready up our cards and we begin the next round. So that's how you play a round. Now we'll get into the game and we'll see how it plays out. I have the option here of either playing a card or using Vader's ability if I had played a purple card this round, or I can take initiative, which would end my turn, my round, or I can attack. When you attack, you deal the damage as indicated by the attack number on your card. You also take the damage indicated on the opponent's card. So if I chose to attack R2-D2, I would deal 2 damage and I would take 1 damage. The 2 damage that I would deal will be negated by the shield on R2-D2. Do I care about R2-D2, or would I rather go ahead and attack the enemy base? I don't care much about R2-D2. I'd prefer to ping that shield off with Vader's ability. So I think I'm just going to leave him. And I do want to get out Super Laser Technician. It's a ramp card. I could also go for a TIE Fighter, Death Star Stormtrooper, and Vader's ability play this round, which seems good as well. Get some space pressure. But Super Laser Technician is so good, so I think I'm going to play that. Play Super Laser Technician. He enters play exhausted. When he is defeated, he can be put into play as a resource, which means he'll go face down over here. Opponent used 3 resources to play Wing Leader. An X-Wing, which when played gives 2 experience tokens to another friendly rebel unit. So that experience tokens upgrade a unit by 1/1. So R2 gets +2/+2 to his stats, which with his shield is pretty strong. I now wish I could ping that shield off, because he's going to be able to use that shield to kill one of my units if he chose. He's an AI though. He may not choose to do that. I'm going to go ahead and attack. I don't have any other options. Attack, or I could take the initiative. So I'll attack the enemy base. I don't want to attack R2 because my First Legion Stormtrooper would just die for no reason. Let's see what R2... Yeah, he chose to go face, which isn't the best play. It's not terrible. And then as I have no other actions, I'm going to take the initiative token so that I go first next round. Then we each draw 2, and we put 1 card face down. I think I will choose Overwhelming Barrage, as it can't be played right now, but I might need it later. Let's go Super Laser Technician. Okay, so I think the play here is going to be TIE Fighter, Death Star Stormtrooper, ping with Vader on either the shield or the X-Wing leader. I could also play Vader's lightsaber on one of these units, but I kind of want to save it for Vader. I need to deal with that R2. He's got 3 health and 6 health and 3 attack. Let's use the Super Laser Technician to take out that shield. So he takes 3 damage in return. R2 takes 0, but he loses the shield. And then I'll play the Super Laser Technician. He's using Surprise Strike. Attack with a unit. It gets +3 attack for this attack, so he's dealing 6 damage to my base, which now has 9 damage. And now it's my action. I could use Overwhelming Barrage, give a friendly unit +2/+2. Then it deals damage equal to its power divided as you choose. So that would be 4 damage on R2, which would not kill him. But I could then use the First Legion Stormtrooper to kill R2. It's not a bad play, but it doesn't deal with the X-Wing leader. Let's play the Death Star Stormtrooper. I want to deal with that X-Wing leader efficiently with Vader's ability. Opponent's going to use Surprise Strike, attack with the unit. It gets +3 for this attack, so he's going to just go and face with all he's got. We're playing more control-oriented. And then we're going to use the ability on Darth Vader. Deal 1 damage to a unit and 1 damage to a base. Which deals with the X-Wing and does 1 damage to his base. And now the opponent is going to take the initiative token, and so that's all he's going to do for the remainder of the round. And I will go ahead and play the TIE Fighter. And do I want to play Vader's Saber? So Vader can enter play in another 2 turns. I could play his Saber on the First Legion Stormtrooper here. Actually think I will do that. And then I'll attack with him 4, 5 on the base. And then that's all I can do, so I just pass, and the turn ends. We each draw 2 and have the option of resourcing 1 card. So it'll be up to 6 resources. He's going to go face. If it was a human, he'd probably take out the 1st Legion Stormtrooper, but maybe not. Some players are really aggressive. The AI plays like roughly at the level of a slightly below average player. And so here I'm going to play Overwhelming Barrage. So I'll target my 1st Legion Stormtrooper, and then I can deal damage up to 7 damage, which will be sufficient to eliminate R2. He's going to play Leia. When played, she can ready a resource or exhaust a unit, and he chooses to exhaust my 1st Legion Stormtrooper, which is a pretty good decision. I like that decision. And then I'll use Vader's ability, or I could attack with my TIE Fighter. I'll go ahead and attack with the TIE Fighter. Let's attack with the Death Star Trooper on Leia. It's an efficient trade. It'll kill both characters. He's going to play a Restored Arc 170, which has Restore 1, which means when it attacks, he heals 1 damage from his base. I am going to... I think I'll attack with the TIE Fighter and take that out, along with Vader's ability. I sacrificed my TIE Fighter, but... oh. Now he has an upgrade for it, Resilient, which gives it +3 health, so that looks like a pretty terrible play in hindsight. And he takes the initiative, and I have nothing else I can do, so we each draw 2, resource 1. And he goes first. So we're kind of in the danger zone here. I'm going to... I really have no way of dealing with this card. It's got 6 HP and 3 damage. Grand Moff Tarkin will be a big play. So I can search the top 5 cards of my deck for up to 2 Imperial cards to draw. It'd be probably... I Am Your Father and Cell Block Guard, I'm thinking. Oh, does it have to be units? I think it has to be units. So let's grab those 2. Plays Consular Security Force. I'm going to want Vader into play. I think I'll just do the attack with the 1st Legion Stormtrooper right now. Attack's going to be for 6 on the enemy base. He's going to use Luke Skywalker's action to give a shield to the Consular. And I'm going to use my epic action. So if you control 7 or more resources, deploy this leader. So we will deploy him. And he enters play as Darth Vader. And he's going to use his epic action, put Luke Skywalker onto the field. So Vader, a 5/8 who can deal 2 damage to a unit on attack. And then I also have Cell block guard who has Sentinel, which is like bodyguard or guard in other games. Units can't attack your non-Sentinel units. Or I could play Ozzel and a Death Star Stormtrooper. Could I set up lethal next round? 5, 6, 7, 18 theoretically. I do want to protect my guy with Darth Vader's lightsaber, so gonna play the cell block guard. And he's gonna use Luke to take it out. And then I'm going to attack with Vader, and I think I'm just gonna go for his base. Let's see, he has 3, 7, 8, 9. Not enough to kill me, unless he has a buff. He has nothing in his hand, so he probably doesn't. Or he probably won't. And then that's all I can do, so I pass. He takes the initiative. You can see the game compensates players for not having as many actions to do by giving you the first action. Here I don't really need to resource anything, so I'm going to pass and just take the draw 2. There's also that nice decision to make about whether to resource a card or draw 2 cards, which is good. Always like more decisions as opposed to less. So for my first action here, I'm going to attack with Vader on the enemy base, and that will allow me to do 2 damage, which will finish off Luke Skywalker. And when the hero who has entered play dies, he goes back to his original position. He gets flipped back over. No longer has access to the epic action. Epic actions can only be used once per game. I just need 8 damage, so if I do 6, 7, 8, I will win. And if my opponent was an actual human opponent, he would not have attacked my face there. He would have attacked Grand Moff Tarkin, which would have prevented me from winning this turn. But I probably would have... Well, no, actually, I did the math wrong. I don't have enough to win this turn because he healed for 1. I forgot about that. He probably still would have attacked Grand Moff Tarkin, I'd imagine. I need to prevent him from doing 6 damage to me next round. I actually think I just want to take the initiative token here. He only needs 3. The only way I could lose is if he's able to deal 6 to me. Yeah, I think I'll just take the initiative token and end the game next round. He didn't have anything else he could do because he had 0 cards in hand. So all I have to do is finish him off that way. So you can see some of the interesting strategy involved in the game. And that ends the game. So that's a game of Star Wars Unlimited. Covers most of the mechanics, close to all that you're going to see during the game. Different card types, tactics, typically like spells in other games, they have an effect right away, but they don't stay on the board. Units do. You can see in the top part of the card it's labeled unit and ground, which indicates which side of the board it's going to play on, which lane. And then the effect. Once you understand how the turn works and how the resources work, everything else is pretty straightforward. Draw 2 at the end of the round, resource 1. Draw 6 at the beginning of the game, resource 2. And then taking the initiative. An interesting strategy element there. So there's a lot of Hearthstone in this game, and some Disney Lorcana as well. The final thing to note is about deck building. You can have up to 3 copies of cards. You'll note next to the Admiral Ozzel on this card there's a little symbol that indicates a unique card. Means only 1 copy of that particular card can be on the table, though you can have multiple copies of the same character as long as they're different versions. So you can, for example, have the Darth Vader hero on the table as well as a Darth Vader card, or different versions of Darth Vader and so on. But you can only have 1 copy of that particular card on the table, but you can have up to 3 copies of any card in the game in your deck, and you have to have at least 50 cards in your deck. Pretty simple as far as deck building restrictions. Then, beyond that, you can see the symbols in the upper right of the card. Each of the cards in your deck has to match the symbols on your base and your leader, or it costs 2 additional resources. So you can see with the Consular Security card, it has the blue and the rebel symbol. Luke Skywalker has the blue and the rebel symbol, so this card does not cost any additional resources. Leia Organa has the yellow and the rebel symbol. The base has the yellow, and Luke Skywalker has the rebel symbol, so this card does not cost any additional resources. If you wanted to include a Grand Moff Tarkin in this Luke Skywalker deck, you can do it, but Grand Moff Tarkin has the green and purple icons. There are no green or purple icons to be found on Luke Skywalker or the Administrator's Tower, so Grand Moff Tarkin would cost +2 per icon that doesn't match with the leader and base, which means Grand Moff Tarkin would cost 8 resources if you wanted to play it from the Luke Skywalker deck. So you can play kind of off-color cards, but it's highly inefficient to do so, which means in the tournament meta, really no one does it. You would only ever see this, I think, in a fun format where you wanted to pair, Luke Skywalker with Darth Vader for funsies. You can do it, but it'll cost you an arm and a leg in terms of paying for it. So players typically will build on color. So you can choose from different bases when you're constructing your deck based on what resource you want. And then you'll match the cards that you play in your deck to your hero, which keeps decks relatively thematic. So for this deck, it's green, and then Darth Vader's, which is red-purple. And so for the starter decks, all the resources will match. So that adds an interesting deck building element. This is, of course, an actual physical card game, so I would encourage players to treat the online simulators as a way to demo the game, but to go out and buy the actual physical cards and participate in your local community, as I have found that very enjoyable in the past, and that's how more cards and more card games get made. So that is how to play Star Wars Unlimited. Be back with more Star Wars Unlimited content in the future, and thank you for watching.